Money FM 89.3, best of weekends.
This amazing new book called Japan by the veteran photographer Hans Sautter. Hans, joining me from Tokyo right now. How are you doing today, Hans? Welcome to the show.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Thanks. Sounding
That's
good. And looking
I was
good.
worried about that. Well, here in Tokyo, it's a sunny day. A few clouds, but it's cold. Much colder than we made last time.
Hans, I got to tell you, this thing is a workout. 4.5 kilograms, 250 pictures, 300 something pages. This is an amazing book that you have put together, but it's a book that's slightly different than most what we would call picture books about Japan, is it not?
It's a bit different. It has a narrative.
Yeah, tell us about the narrative. Tell us what was your thinking in the sections that you put in to this book. I know from previous conversations that we've had that it was you wanted to have a very specific look at Japan. You've been there some 40 years, so you know Japan well. How did you decide to lay out this book?
The first thing, I was tired of the usual Japan book because they are all very similar.
Yeah.
And they perpetuate a romantic image which has been around since the 19th century and is still continuing. And being here so long and having seen so many books and also have had many, many requests to produce such kind of material, I was tired of it. It was uninspiring, and to repeat always the same things is creatively not enticing. So when an editor called me to make this book, I said, well, if you want to do the usual book, just reprint the one I did before.
and pay you again for it.
Well, I know the copyright, But I was not willing to retake the same image I had already done.
Yeah.
And so I had, in bits and pieces, I had concepts in mind, kind of modules in mind, which have been around in my head since a long time. One was that Japanese people, they have the appropriate costumes, or they really try to fit their costumes to their activity or to events or whatever they do. So this is and of course you can see, it's not only uniforms. So of course you can see that all over the world, but in Japan there is a word, to do something proper, to act the part, you have to look the part. So this was the basis for the chapter costume, which is a very important part of the book.
So your chapters basically break out into metropolis, nature, costume, ritual, sacred, aesthetic. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. 6 chapters.
In these chapters, though, you don't necessarily show everything that is always wonderful about Japan, right? You take a very, I won't say skeptical or cynical look, but you take a realistic look at Japan, which is what I think makes these pictures so engaging as I look through the book.
Well, the overall theme about the book, or the overall idea, which I also and told my collaborators, the essayists, who are all fantastic writers, was dichotomy, yin-yang.
Sure.
And so, for example, rituals. With rituals, there are all kinds of rituals, but Japan is a thoroughly ritualized society. So what I call the modern rituals in the companies, in everyday life, they also, they're very nice, but they also create a lot of inefficiencies. because you always have to go through the proper rituals, which everything takes very long time.
Lots of different layers of permissions and things like that you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to a you go to a meeting and you have to set up the next meeting, and then the meeting you have, it takes 20 minutes, and the actual meeting, then comes the next meeting where it's decided what the meeting is about, and so on. So and I call it actually, by now, I mean, looking at Japan from all my experience, I call it premeditated complications.
That's a great way to look at it. Having lived in Japan, I think I can agree with you on that. And of course, many of our listeners on the radio and viewers on Facebook Live today have either been to Japan, have done business there, lived there. So I think you will find that what you're saying resonates greatly with many of the people that are watching the show today. As you are talking, my assistant producer Dan is going through and showing us some of the pictures, and I just have to say, our attempt to show some of these pictures on Facebook right now do not do them any justice at all, because in real life they are absolutely stunning. The production value on this book, Hans, is really amazing. I know as a photographer, you paid very close attention to that detail, did you not?
Oh, sure. I bought the newest high-resolution camera available, of course. And but the book was going through different stages with different publishers, and so the book was supposed to be smaller with one publisher. Then it went back to this publisher, which wanted to do a large book in the first place. But I work always, of course, on a large screen, so I look at the photograph large from the start. Yeah, that they get printed small is bad luck. This time I was lucky that I have a appropriate size, which is important for this book in particular. For example, the chapter Metropolis. The detail is such that when you look at this picture of a city, you see more than with the eye, because it's two-dimensional, so you can see it flat, and so you can see little apartments with a furniture in and stuff like that within this huge megalopolis.
We're talking to Hans Sautter, veteran photographer, been in Tokyo in Japan for some 40 years. His new book is called Tokyo, 4.5 kilograms, over 250 pictures, 300-something pages. It is not just a coffee table book. It is actually the coffee table. If you put some legs on it, you could have your drinks and your cake and everything right on top of the table, or you could use it to fend off burglars or somebody who comes into your house or apartment. This thing is huge. Hans, the color separation on the photos, the actual printing of it. Tell us about that process, because many regular photo books go the cheap way when it comes to printing, and it really shows in the photos. And these photos are so crisp and clear. In addition to the camera you use, the printing quality of it is amazing.
Well, I don't know much about it, to be honest, but I had a very good relation with a production manager, and I flew to Munich actually in August. My third Corona flight, or my third flight in Corona times, just to check the color proofs,
right,
and to make fine adjustments. I have to say some adjustments have not been transmitted well. Some of the photographs are a little bit too bright, but in generally, I'm quite happy about it.
Yeah, Hans, talk to us about your process of taking photographs. Every photographer wants to know, how do you take the ideal picture? How do you take a really good picture? Your eye is very, I would say, well trained. Obviously, by this point in your career, you've been doing it for decades. What do you look for in a picture? Like, for example, I don't know if anybody can see this, but when you look at this was one of the festivals in Japan. I can barely hold this book up; it's so heavy. when you are looking, thanks, Dan. When you are looking to take a shot like this, what do you look for before you press the shutter?
Well, most of my photos I imagine before I take them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always, or I used to say, that I don't photograph with my eye, but with my mind. First, I conceive it in my mind, and then I go for the image I have in my mind. That's, in many photos.
That's interesting.
And these
I'll take it.
photos, to create the fear, I have to be low.
So that you're smaller than.
No, I was sitting when I took that particular photo.
Okay.
So I'm looking up, and when you look, even if I photograph you, and I'm sitting in front of you, and you will make like that, you will look like a monster.
Yeah. Yeah. So you play with the size and you play with the angle as well, right? After you.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's good.
Sorry about.
Yeah. What else? What else strikes you when you take a picture? For example, there's one picture you have of Shibuya crossing, Hachiko crossing, that so many of us have been to and so many of us know. And this is so often photographed. How do you photograph it in a way that's different than what everybody else has done?
To find the appropriate location I envision is very difficult. So for this one, I tried a lot of locations. Mm-hmm. There are the obvious locations, down at the crossing. I know in Japan it's very difficult to get a permission to operate a drone. And a drone drone cameras don't have the resolution I wanted. So I circled around the square and tried restaurants, went to different department stores, or buildings where there is a window, and until I found exactly what I was looking for. It's a long process. It takes sometimes months. So I mean, I didn't just go there and shoot. I knew pretty much, as I said before, I had some. I conceive in my mind what I really want, and then I follow that up, and that is very difficult because till you find the locations which makes me happy.
Hans, you mentioned these different sections that you have, the way that you've structured the book: metropolis, nature, costume, ritual, sacred, aesthetic. Is there something unique to Japan? You've been across Asia for decades as well, in addition to living in Japan. But so many Asian cultures have these different elements, do they not? Is it that Japan sort of brings them all together at the same time? What is different or special or unique to you about Japan?
I don't know. Or put it that way, this is a very difficult question, which is difficult to answer spontaneously. I would have to think about it. But well, they always say, especially in Germany, we have about 80 books with the subtitle modernity and tradition, or modern and traditional. It's just going on and on. It's the usual subtitle.
Yeah.
But this applies to any other society. Even if I go to Germany, I could make a book about modern and modernity and traditional, sure, or the US, or anywhere else. What makes Japan different from other Asian society, I would say, is that on the surface, a famous writer wrote in the back of his book, which I really agree with, what you see is not what is in Japan. So the surface is overemphasized, or there is a lot of effort made in the surface. This goes in everything, in also the Japan, the usual Japan image people have about temples, etc., etc. As you can see in my book, there is almost no temple or no garden except one.
Right, right.
But this is the image people have, and then they come to Tokyo and they arrive, and then they are exactly where you are in the first chapter, Metropolis, with all the highways, all the concrete, and you hardly see any green, never mind any gardens or temples. Of course, they're fair, yeah. But that's just a very, very small part of it. So Japan is more difficult in the sense that the things which are usually in books, in reality are hidden or not. It's not the first thing you see.
Yeah.
You have to look for it. So in Tokyo, if you look for temples, yeah, you have to make effort. While you see the concrete landscape, and if you arrive in Narita or in Haneda or in Osaka, I mean you go with the bus or with the trains to Tokyo, look out of the window, and what you see is that semi-industrial landscape, I would call it, which I illustrated in the chapter Metropolis. That's the normal Japan. Say.
Yeah, not the one of so many sort of nice coffee table books, the ones you see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hans, is this book available across Asia, in Singapore and elsewhere?
It's available on all over the world on Global Books and other outlets. Unfortunately, the English edition got killed by Corona. But I made a free download. Yeah, there is. You can also download it on the. You also can download on the internet here on japanbook.info. There is a link in the menu Buy, where you can download the whole English text, including all the captions, the complete words basically of the book.
Yeah,
as a free download, and
otherwise it's in German, right? It's not in Japanese.
The book itself is in German. Yeah.
Japanbook.info. Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for something easy to remember, and I had a lot of complaints. For example, one person said, "Well, I cannot read it while I'm in bed."
You can't read it while you're in bed anyway. It's going to take up the whole bed, so that's not going to be a problem.
So when you download the text, it's formatted for A4. You can easily print it out, so you can read that one in bed. And I had other complaints like it doesn't fit my bookshelf.
Well, that one I can see. You may need a new bookshelf actually to do that, because it is so big. Hans, it is a beautiful book. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. The book is Japan. Hans Sautter is the photographer, some culmination of 40 years living in Japan, of course, doing a lot of other photography work around Asia as well. And thanks for being with us today, Hans, and sharing this with us.
Thank you.